So my background started long before college. I worked at a ski resort near Salt Lake when I was in my undergraduate. In 2004, my first real introduction to affordable housing crisis was actually right here in Sun Valley. My younger brother was hired to be a full-time year-round lifty here at the mountain. His wife was hired to be an accountant. They moved up here. They were here a week and couldn't find housing and had to move home back to Utah. And so that was my first kind of realization that something needed to change here. So fast forward a couple years to my master's program, and I was able to work on a master's thesis that focused on this. And I learned a lot of things about mountain communities, where they started, and where I think they're heading. So most mountain communities in the western US, as you guys probably know, started as some kind of a mining town, a ranching town, resource extraction. And as their primary industries started to falter, they had to reinvent themselves, and a lot of them did by turning to resort tourism, destination tourism, Sun Valley being the first and foremost of those. So what's really interesting is that these communities are now the canaries in the mine. You know, they started as a mine, and they're the canaries. They're the ones who feel the impacts of climate change and economic instability first. So what happens to our mountain communities will inevitably happen to the rest of the country. We're the first ones we see a decline in tourism, and that's we'll say a barometer for the rest of the community, or the rest of the country in economic stability, where the market's at, where employment's at. People typically aren't going on a ski vacation if they're worried about their portfolio or their job or their home. So while I was working on my thesis, I found one really interesting term while doing a lot of climate change research, and that was environmental lapse rate. And if any of you are pilots in here or meteorologists, I don't know if we have any, but you recognize the term. Basically, it's a decrease of 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 2 degrees Celsius for every 1,000 feet of increase in elevation. So as you hike up the mountain, it gets a little bit cooler, and that's what basically the International Civil Aeronautics Organization defines as the rate at which it does that. You'll notice there's one number there, 2 degrees Celsius, and that's kind of this magic number that we're determining that we need to hold the planet to in order to avoid these unmitigatable climate impacts. So what does that mean for Sun Valley, for mountain communities? It means the conditions that we enjoy today at 6,000 feet are going to be enjoyed tomorrow, in the near future, whatnot, at about 7,000 feet, and that could be by 2050 or earlier, depending on how well we meet our climate targets and whatnot. Sun Valley's base elevation is at about 6,000 feet. So, this doesn't show up very well in here at all. So basically, this is the 2014-2015 climate graph for the ski season. Started in November, ended in May. And there were about 7 days on the mountain, at mid-mountain, 7,400 feet in elevation, where they couldn't make snow, where it was too warm to cross that 28-degree threshold to make snow. What happens with even just a 2-degree shift, and I know that's a global average, but even if we just saw 2 degrees Celsius here, that adds 25 more days at mid-mountain. They can't make snow. So if you think about that, now we're over a month of snow that can't be made on the mountain. Snowmaking is one of the last mitigation efforts to ensure an open season on time, to ensure good quality of snow for our visitors and whatnot. And this is mid-mountain. If you actually look at this data for the base areas, it almost doubles. So we're talking about possibly 2 months during our limited 5 to 6 month winter season where you can't make snow. And that's 2 degrees Celsius. If you look at the more extreme 2099 IPCC data, it could be up to 5 degrees centigrade locally, which basically blows skiing out of the water. So there's a few things that we can do that have been done traditionally. Four-season market destination, you start trying to shift away from reliance on snow. We've done that well here. We've got a lot of outdoor activities like biking, golf, etc. Real estate development. Somewhere around the 70s, 80s, real estate became the driver for ski resorts as opposed to being the amenity. And so now skiing is almost the amenity for real estate. And so people coming here for their second homes or third, fourth homes, as the case happens here sometimes. And then events and marketing. That was kind of the next big push. And you'll see a lot of almost kind of homogenous activities between resorts, music festivals, and bike events and things like that to try to bridge those shoulder seasons. But what I'm suggesting is that we're going to need to look at non-traditional solutions, things that haven't been done before in order to maintain relevancy and in order to react to the changes that are going to be happening here. The first of one is reconfiguration of the mountain. With the addition of one new chairlift and the reconfiguration of one existing chairlift, Sun Valley Mountain could actually keep 50% of their terrain open regardless of most of the conditions that they're experiencing. And that's a fairly small investment over the long haul. And then retreat. If climate is warming down in the base areas, you're going to have to start moving your services further up the mountain. You're going to have to look at more mid-mountain learning areas. You're going to have to reconfigure how your runs and your ski lifts are. So as the resort starts retreating up the mountain, reconfiguring up the mountain, the town is going to have to re-evolve along with it. And eventually, as skiing might go away, which is horrible for me and how much I enjoy alpine sports, there are some opportunities for mountain communities. So the threats to the traditional model, real quick, like what we see is, the destination resort community, seasonality. That we have really strong peaks. Right now, you'll see this town is super packed. When I came here for my job interview in April of 2015, my girlfriend and I were whispering as we walked down 4th Avenue because it was eerily quiet. So you've got these huge swings from unbelievably crowded to deathly quiet. Variability. There's good snow years, there's bad snow years, there's economic conditions outside of the community that may play a factor on what's going on in the community. And then competition being the most important one. We've got competition with other communities for visitors, we've got competition with these other communities for investments, and employees being the hardest one, because right now, rental housing in the North Valley, where we're at, Ketchum and Sun Valley, is unaffordable for those making median income. And that's not your, entry-level baristas. That's, about $50-something thousand a year that can't even afford to rent in the North Valley. And then if you go to the South Valley, home prices just cross the threshold where they're now unaffordable for median earners. So we're not going to attract the people to live here unless we can provide a place for them to live. We have these lofty goals of reinvigorating our economy, but the fact is, if you don't have the staff, if you don't have the talent here, it's going to be really difficult to do that. So it's really time to start thinking outside the box, and there's a lot of talent in this town who are coming up with ideas, who are trying to move and shake, and a lot of you are here in this room, and I'm glad you're here. And I hope the people that are new to this kind of concept can also leave here with a call to action to help us move these things along. So we want to leverage Sun Valley's unique assets. We have an affluent, highly educated population. People come here from all over the world to retire, to live here, to have their second homes here, and they bring enormous influence and education and experience with them that we can use here. There's also a high concentration of environmental organizations. There's Environmental Resource Center, Wood River Land Trust, Trout Unlimited, Nature Conservancy, Idaho Conservation League. There's a ton of them, and they're all doing really, really good work. And that's something else that we can leverage as well. And the last thing is our dark sky exterior lighting ordinances. And so most of the communities here, in fact, all of them have these ordinances which restrict the ability of light to be cast up into the air and whatnot. And so it protects the night sky. It's better for human health. It's better for a lot of things. But some of the communities are a little bit more active in enforcement of those. Sun Valley, Ketchum, and to an extent Blaine County are doing that. So like I said, we've got a great population that we're leveraging. There's a couple of projects going on right now. The Ketchum Innovation Center, which is run by John Duvall and the Ketchum Community Development Corporation. They're an impact startup incubator for tech companies. The Band of Angel and Mentors, Rick Lefebvre is here, and he is instrumental in that. And they've raised over $1 million in local capital for local businesses and startups, which is phenomenal. And I see them having a huge role to play moving forward in realigning our economy to one that is place-based but not tourism-based. Sun Valley Institute, of course, this is phenomenal. The resources that Amy and her organization are able to bring to bear to look at these problems, not only from this amazing international and global kind of perspective that we've seen for the last couple of days, but even here at just the local level, the projects. And the last one is college partnerships. I know there's a bunch of people in this room that I've met from Boise State, University of Idaho, Arizona State, University of Washington, all people who are helping us solve problems ranging from climate to housing to economics. So about leveraging our pristine night sky. This is kind of the big reveal. We haven't really gone public with this yet, but it's something interesting that we're working on. If you look at, went too far. This is a map of North America at night, and you can see all of the lights where the major cities are, and kind of see an extent of the sprawl on the East Coast, and things are a little more dense on the West, even though they seem kind of seem kind of sprawly when you're in LA. It's not as bad as the East Coast. We are here in the middle of that dark circle. So we don't have the light pollution that a lot of these places have. I don't know if any of you have seen recently, there's been a host of articles saying that 80% of the world's population can't see the Milky Way at night. And that's astonishing. And here, you know, I sit out in the hot tub, I look up and there it is. It's a magical thing and I love it. Also, in case anybody was wondering, that is not a major city, that is the Bakken oil shale. Those are all methane flares and service lights and things like that. It's just as bright as Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And so we have a really unique asset here. This is that same light pollution map, but actually overlaid on a GIS. You can see this down on the bottom left corner, the Boise metro area, and then on the bottom right corner, you've got Haley, Ketchum. And then for about 50 to 100 miles north of us, there's not a whole lot of anything. We have one of the most pristine dark skies in the lower 48. So we're looking at the potential of reinvigorating, you know, it's still tourism-based, but it's a different type of tourism. It's one that is not seasonal and one that is not necessarily tied to weather or economic conditions so much. Dark skies just naturally lends itself to astronomy and celestial tourism. So we're also, by the way, the point of totality for the 2017 solar eclipse, just right up at Redfish Lake up the hill. So I've heard that they actually have people trying to book the entire Redfish property just so they can bring in their star watching groups and amateur astronomers and things like that. So what we're doing is we're with the International Dark Sky Association applying for a reserve designation, and that's the largest area that you can claim. Once we get this designation, it offers a certain quality of light, guaranteed, or a certain quality of dark, I should say, to ensure that people are going to have the experience that they want when they're coming to view you know, meteor showers or different celestial events and things like that. So I think somebody the other day said we were trying to put the sun back in Sun Valley. In this particular application, we want to take it out. Especially with the eclipse. We're going to really try to market ourselves as the place to come hang out, spend some time, and see this really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. So we're applying together. This is a collaborative effort. It's being led by the Idaho Conservation League and the city of Stanley, just this little community up in the Sawtooth north of us, but also the city of Ketchum, city of Sun Valley, Blaine County, and our federal partners are all working together on putting together this application. And the area that we're talking about could be, we don't have a formal delineation yet, but these are all of the wilderness areas just north of us. And Stanley's this little dot kind of here up in the north corner of that, but the rest of this is all already designated federal wilderness, and there's some inholdings within that. But generally speaking, this is a fantastic opportunity for people to have such a large area, and it can't really be done in a lot of other places. And then the thing about the Dark Sky Reserve is not just saying we have a place that you can go that's dark. There's plenty of places on the planet that are dark. We're saying it's a place that's dark, but also has services for you to come stay in a hotel, get dinner, go to some social activities, whatnot, when you're not out enjoying our amazing night skies. So our goal is to, through this, become a premier stargazing and astronomical destination. We have talked to already a couple of universities who have astronomy programs, and they want to come here to use our sky. Boulder and Denver, they can't see the night sky there because there's so much light pollution from the cities, but when they come here, they absolutely love the quality of dark that we can provide for them. And while we're doing this, we're enhancing the environment for nocturnal species. We're increasing human health. There's been a lot of information posted lately about the effects of nighttime light pollution on human health, about your ability to sleep and linking it to certain disorders. And our local economy. It's one more way to diversify, add another arrow into the quiver and try to just hedge a little bit longer. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is something that we're working on with the Institute. I'm on the advisory board, and I'm helping Amy with this project. It's the Resilience Metrics Project, and big shout outs to Amy and Werner and Erica and Christina Hayworth and other people who are helping put this together. But It is a community-wide resilience strategy. Each individual community has kind of their own take on how to look at this particular issue of food security, energy, water, community building, social resilience. And so we're going to bring all of the parties together and have one community-wide resilience strategy so everybody's not pulling in 100 different directions. The first step is to create goals and metrics for tracking. So talking to people and finding out what is important to them and then what kinds of things show if we're attaining progress towards that goal. So we're reaching out to targeted stakeholders, asking for their input to do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis for the community, asking them to help us with the drafts. And then we're going to engage the general public in further refining that and building really strong community consensus towards this project. And then implementation will be able to be done by public entities, private entities. We don't hope this is a plan that just sits on the shelf like so many that we see. We want this to be active and engaged and really drawing people in. So our community here has the foresight and talent to mitigate the threats facing us. We have immense resources, we have immense education, and we're looking ahead in a way that some of our competitors are not. And so we don't have to be that canary in the mine. We don't have to be the first ones to feel the effects of climate change and the economy if we can just take a few measured steps towards doing this. So thank you guys very much.